The American workers deserve secret ballot elections and free speech, not card checks and censorship. Congress can make that a reality in a variety of ways. There are several bills pending. And in fact, the National Labor Relations Board could go a long way to fostering elections and free speech if only it would stop trying to throttle both.
First witness is Mr. William Messenger, who's the Vice President and Legal Director for the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation, located in Springfield, Virginia. Welcome, sir.
Chairman Good, Ranking Member DeSaulnier, members of the subcommittee, thank you for the opportunity to testify today. The point of my testimony is straightforward. Secret ballot elections and free speech are far superior to card checks and censorship. But before discussing that point, I wanted to note that an individual's right to choose whether to associate with a union shouldn't be put to a majority vote at all, regardless of the process. The First Amendment guarantees to every person an individual right to choose what organization he or she affiliates with. We don't put to a vote what church people must belong to, what political party they must affiliate with, what advocacy group they must be a part of. It's an individual choice. That same principle should apply to unions. Whether any worker associates with a union should be that individual's choice and not a collective decision. Unfortunately, federal law collectivizes that decision. Federal labor law provides that workers must accept union representation if, at some moment in the past, even if decades ago, a majority of workers in the workplace supposedly supported the union. And what's more, federal law authorizes forcing workers to pay dues to that union even if they don't want to be a member. I submit this is inconsistent with basic precepts of free association. And at the very least, Congress should pass the National Right to Work Act and guarantee that every worker at least has the freedom not to be forced to pay dues to a union to keep their jobs. However, if the government is going to persist with its collectivist approach, at the very least it can provide workers with a democratic process for choosing or rejecting a union. And at a minimum, this means secret ballot elections and free speech. Secret ballot elections and free speech are the backbone of our political process and the political process of any nation that could call itself a democracy. With a secret ballot, voters can vote their conscience without worrying about intimidation or threats. With free flow of information, they can make an informed decision. Unfortunately, union organizers often attempt to rob employees of their right to vote in a secret ballot and of their right to free speech with union organizing agreements. And in these agreements, try to supplant that process with card check and with censorship of employer speech about unionization. And I submit that's nothing like a democratic process. I mean, just imagine if the ruling party of a third world nation decided to use such a process instead of having secret ballot elections for political office. Instead of having elections, the ruling party would go around to people's homes and workplaces and collect votes for the party. Instead of free speech, only the ruling party would be allowed to campaign. Campaigning by the opposition party would be banned. And if and when the ruling party collects the majority of votes from the citizens, the ruling party is declared the winner in perpetuity and does not have to stand for re-election. That's very similar to what employees face under union organizing agreements. Union organizing agreements generally supplant secret ballot elections with card check recognition, where union organizers go to employees' homes and into their workplaces to collect votes for the union, mainly by getting them to sign union membership cards. Union organizing agreements almost always contain gag clauses that censor the employer from speaking about unionization, therefore ensuring that employees only hear one side of the story. That's spun by the union. And if and when the union collects cards from a majority of employees, it presumptively becomes the employee's representative forever, because nothing in the National Labor Relations Act requires that unions stand for re-election. I submit this process is nothing akin to a democratic process that would be allowed in any sort of political democracy. And unfortunately, the Biden National Labor Relations Board is getting into the act and also trying to repress secret ballot elections and free speech, even though the NLRA favors both. The National Labor Relations Act favors secret ballot elections and does not mandate card check. And in fact, Congress, you've repeatedly refused to amend the National Labor Relations Act with the PRO Act and other things to mandate card check. Yet the Biden NLRB is trying to do an end run around Congress by mandating card check with its CEMEX decision, under which it's now an unfair labor practice, according to the Biden board, for an employer to refuse to recognize a union based on cards. Turning to free speech, the Supreme Court has recognized that the National Labor Relations Act favors a robust, open, and wide open debate about labor disputes, and that employees have an implicit right to receive information about unionization. But notwithstanding what the National Labor Relations Act is supposed to do, the Biden NLRB is cracking down on employer speech as much as it can in trying to suppress any speech that it deems critical of unions and of unionization. I submit this is wrongful. The American workers deserve secret ballot elections and free speech, not card checks and censorship. Congress can make that a reality in a variety of ways. There are several bills pending. And in fact, the National Labor Relations Board could go a long way to fostering elections and free speech if only it would stop trying to throttle both and enforce existing law against union organizing agreements. I submit the board should try to be part of the solution instead of be part of the problem. Thank you, Chairman Good, and I look forward to answering everyone's questions.